Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3.
6:30, isn't it? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Members, there's no point me reading this whole paragraph out. You know to mute your microphones. You know to wait till your face comes up on the screen. Otherwise, no one can see you back or hear you through the live feed. And ICT is going to let me know when we're good to go. Okay, well, good evening, members, to our Environmental Services Committee and to anyone listening online. We have apologies from Councillor Ferguson, Councillor McConville-Walker, Councillor Hockeyan, and Jonathan Hayes is taking a few days rest and relaxation. Alderman Greenfield, is this apologies? Yep, thank you.
Councillor Armstrong's apology tonight.
Better listen to my own rules. Members, any more apologies? Don't see any more lights on, so we're good to move on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members, I think we just take these as we go along the meeting, because sometimes things can crop up. Agenda item 3 then, this is an item for, I need a proposer and a seconder for this, but Elizabeth, you're going to take us 3.1. Where's Elizabeth? Okay.
Evening, members. This is an item for decision. This is an annual report and action plan where we as a council review the air quality in the borough. We agree an air quality action plan with a determination to continue to improve local air quality in the borough. You will note in the paper there's some detail on both nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter PM10. The report also sets out some ongoing work to reduce emissions locally. Do please note Appendix 1, which is a chart setting out nitrogen dioxide levels at different monitoring sites, showing some reduction since 2020. And also then in Appendix 2, the full air quality report and action plan. And that is really what we plan to do moving forward. Members, this is an annual requirement for the council. We do hope to see a DAERA consultation this year around a much needed clean air strategy to address pollution and really to address the issues in how we heat our homes and power vehicles. This is a decision item. If there's any queries on the technical aspects of it, Paul McCullough is here as the Environmental Health Manager who has pulled this report together. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I like the way you just say, right, don't ask me any questions. I'll pass you over to Paul. Folks, any members, any questions? No lights on, but I do need a proposer and a seconder for this, please. Proposed by Councillor McClelland, a seconder, please. Alderman Greenfield, thank you very much. I was pointing at you there as if we were in an auction, wasn't it? Okay, members, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Agenda item 3.2 is an information item, but members, anyone, any queries on that? No lights on, so we'll just move on. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 4, again, members, this is all 4.1 to 4.3 are all items of information. But is anybody, any questions, queries that they would like to raise? Okay, Alderman Moutry.
Okay, Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to 4.1, appreciate the information that we have been given to date. And while the response in relation to the scoping survey, particularly in Lurgan, is probably disappointing, can I just ask you, through you to the officers, where do we go from here in this? Do we leave this, or do we, try another way around this? Because, well, it's disappointing just to the response. Thank you.
Yep. Totally agree, Alderman Moutry. Councillor McClelland, is your query in relation to this as well, or separate? Okay, so Barry, he's going to take this first.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members. Yes, the officers would agree. It is very disappointing. We had sent out the survey. The officers on the ground, the town centre staff, have not only brought it up and encouraged people to feedback, they have got similar feedback than as is in the report about people's concerns. In relation to where we go next, I don't really know, because the point of this was that if we could get enough folk to agree it in Portadown, then that might be able to release money to go and extend it further, because there is no budget to do anything else with it. But there was nobody in Portadown who wanted to do it. The ones in Lurgan, as members will see from the report, are not of the time period that we would want. In other words, it isn't a great coverage. And again, I know members were concerned about that. So really, I don't know if there's an awful lot more we can do. Now, the only suggestion that we could have is we could try it in Armagh City. Because obviously our two major towns, Banbridge and Lurgan and Portadown were done. We could try it in Banbridge and Armagh, but really it's just there for information because we don't really know. And all the report said the last time is that we would go away, we would find this and we would bring the information back to members. So happy to take any thoughts, members.
Alderman Moultrie, are you content with that? Or are you, yeah, we'll let you come back in. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that, Barry. The proposed payment to businesses, can I ask, is there flexibility around that it could be more of an incentive? And after all, I'm sure we're paying a considerable amount to keep the toilet facilities, and I'm speaking about Lurgan, particularly in Castle Lane, open. Is there something more can be done maybe to incentivize even at this stage? Thank you.
Certainly the financial recompense was similar to that of Derry and Strabane District Council. And members had thought that was reasonable. Yes, we could certainly put it up because, as you say, there are, if we didn't have to provide toilets ourselves, that would be a considerable cost saving. I suppose the other bit is that none of the people who were being talked to, and again, it's not just from the information in the report, but our officers have spoken to the town centre people. And it wasn't a thing that people had brought up and said, if you were to offer us more money, we might be thinking about it. But it certainly could be an option if members wishes to consider it in some different ways. So we could either change locations, we could increase the money again so that it would cover itself. But it probably won't take away those concerns that people have as listed in the report.
Thank you, Barry, for that. Councillor McClelland.
Yes, indeed, Madam Chair. Thank you for letting me in. I'm on item 4.2, the remedial works at Clare Lane. Now, I suppose Clare Lane is as far away from the DEA that I represent as is possible to be. But in terms of where I live, in terms of where I farm, it is quite literally on my doorstep. And I suppose from a fitness point of view and so on, I need to maybe spend more time in Clare Lane, but we'll maybe say nothing more about that. But, certainly any time that I am in Clare Lane, the need for investment as outlined in the report before us this evening is stark, to be quite frank. And that ranges from both the need for the bridge to be fixed, to be replaced, to be whatever, the erosion on many of the paths and so on. So I suppose I just come in, and at the risk of maybe sort of annoying some of my colleagues to my left, but I come in as a non-DEA member, but as a member who is concerned for Third Lane. We need this investment, folks, and I would certainly wish officers well in terms of the work that they're doing behind the scenes to attempt to put the finance together to get this work carried out. Thanks, Chair.
And whilst there isn't really a question in there, Councillor McClelland, I'm going to call Martin in just to see, is there a bit of an update on that?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, the member, for the question. Yes, Chair, we understand the issues at Clareglen. We had a very interesting walk with some of the members. It was also very interesting for the officers to hear firsthand some of the feedback that they're hearing from their constituents. There is considerable amount of investment needed, more investment than we as a council have available. And so therefore there is the need to try and engage with a third party and a funding body to help us out with that. Members will be aware that there is an enormous amount out there for this type of work at the moment, but we are very skilled in identifying and being able to apply and successfully apply for that type of funding. And we have a number of officers who are working on it actively at the moment. I'm sure members are interested in the timescale, and that's a difficult one for us because the main funding stream that we're interested in is going to be released by DERA, and there's no word at the moment as to when that's going to be. But certainly, Chair, we are working hard to try and engage with the right people, and as soon as there's any updates, we'll come back to members.
Alderman Barry.
Thank you. I was going to say, Madam Lord Mayor. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. And first of all, I'd like to thank the officers, Marty and Barry and Mark, who attended the site meeting last week with the majority of the DEA members for the Cruiser. It was very useful. It was very helpful because, as we had quite rightly outlined from the outset, that the Clareglen site itself is something that we are regularly contacted about because of the lack of investment that is in it. And I welcome the neighbour here, Councillor McClellan, for speaking. I'm not annoyed at all. I welcome his contribution because he's a neighbour of it. It's his backyard and our front yard, whatever you want to call it. We don't all live in big estates like him, but it is very much welcome because the thing that concerns me probably the most is that sometimes it takes site visits like this, and whilst a lot of the paths were damaged during the storms and a lot of the heavy rainfall, there's a couple of big trees fell into the river, which we're told that Rivers Agency will be in the process of moving them. There is still a lack of attention, in my humble opinion, from this council in relation to the day-to-day running of Clareglen, and I feel the need to step up their game on that one. I know here it was mentioned in the report that they'll be currently working on plans for a short-term repair of some of the issues that were raised. I would like, if possibly at the next month, that we receive an update based on this report, Madam Chair, on a time frame as to what's actually being done and being outlined, even outside the funding. The bridge is a big issue. It's a big issue for local people, but we appreciate that it's not safe. So therefore, we can't let the public on it. And we appreciate also that because of the regulations and because of the whole planning side of things, it cannot be the width that it currently is. It has to be 2 meters wide because of all the regulations and stipulations that are placed upon us and the cost. But I would just encourage our officers, and I know Marty and co will continue to raise focus on this and try to gather funding. But I would just like to know sort of what the plans are in the short term, and maybe a report would come back next month to in September. I'm reading the lips here of the chairperson in September for this, so that we can keep focus on this. It was regrettable that at the particular site, and we as councillors had to tell the staff to get the gates power hosed to the entrance of the caravan park and cut that tree at the entrance and tidy it up and power hose maybe that bin that was black but is now green. Those are things, through the chair, that we as councillors shouldn't have to ask. Frankly, I thought there would have been a maintenance team going out, and before the caravan season started, let's go out here, let's do a sweep up, let's do a tidy up, let's get the chainsaws out, let's get the power washers out and have this presentable. Because if I was a caravaner going into Clareglen and seeing green gates and the state of it, I would be deeply concerned. That's not a funding problem. That's a management problem that needs to be resolved, and needs to be resolved rather quick. So there are things, yes, in the short term that could be done and can be done by this council, and I want to say it. I was walking it on Saturday with the kids, and It's a beautiful walk. It's a lovely walk. But there's clearly improvements that are needed and required. And as Councillor McLellan said, I was going to call in with him for a coffee, but he probably was at a big breakfast somewhere or something, you know, like he wouldn't, you know, like the like of us wouldn't be laughing at his house. But in all seriousness, you get an invite. It'll cost me. But in all seriousness, I would like to see more short-term attention as to practical things that we can do, especially now into the summer. It's a beautiful asset on our doorstep, and I think it has been overlooked. And we as DEA councillors, and along with the help of Councillor McLellan as a neighbour, we're not going to sit back and allow it to be ignored anymore, because investment is needed. But there's improvements that are needed in the short term, and I would like to see action. And as the chair has quite rightly said, let's get a report in September. But I'd like to thank the officers that were there. But obviously we want to see more because of the pressure that we're being under, understandably, from the community who love it and cherish it. And it's not vandalism, it's just neglect. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Barry. And obviously, you know why I said September. Just if anyone's listening online, it's not going to take 3 months to get a report, but obviously we don't meet July and August. So are you content with that? That was sort of more rather than a question. Councillor Radcliffe, is this on the same? Okay, this is going to be a longer meeting tonight than we anticipate.
Thank you, Chair. And it was just to reiterate what Councillor McLellan and Alderman Barry has already said, to thank the officers for the meeting. But I had a site meeting actually in January at Craigavon, pointed out a lot of the issues, especially the fencing. There was a lot of fencing broke, and there's extremely deep water beside that, and obviously it is extremely dangerous for children, the health and safety point of view. Now, I know you can't fence the whole area, but there's a lot of constituents be about there, obviously at the weekends, and I had 2 or 3 phone calls about extremely worried parents. So and I have to agree with Alderman Barry here. I do feel that Craigavon has been neglected. I just have to point that out, because I also understand that the bridge is going to take a considerable amount of funding, but there's a lot of things there that could be addressed, and really it's shocking the way it has been neglected over the last few years. I actually live right beside it myself, like Councillor McLellan here, and I go for a run round once or twice a week, and I just noticed this last lot of years it really has went downhill. So I would just stress to the officers to please try as hard as possible to get some of these issues resolved. And thanks again for the meeting at the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. Councillor McElrath, same? Yes? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just a very quick question in relation to funding. As council as a corporate body, you may not be able to answer this question, Barry or staff, but in terms of the landfill community fund, we have a landfill site just out the road, a stone's throw from Craigavon. Is council as a corporate body, can they apply for funding into that? And if so, that's surely one that we should be looking at. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, council as a corporate body can apply because it's about access and openness. So I'd certainly let the team know that and recommend, if they haven't done it already, that would be an option for it. Yeah, thank you.
And Barry, if that is an option, could you let members know that that's something we, you know, how we're progressing on that? That would be really useful. Members, I'm going to jump across here to agenda item 6, because just while we have the public feed on, with no correspondence and there's no any other business, so it just allows us then to go in to confidential business and not put the live feedback on again. It makes more sense rather than zooming in and out. So could I have a proposer and a seconder to go into confidential business? Alderman Moutry and Councillor Radcliffe. Thank you. And if ICT could let me know when we've gone into confidential business, please.